Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer quick match gameplay. This time around I'm playing as the Empire, going back to my roots against the Greenskins, led by D. Howie 64 on the Southern Chaos Wastes map. So right off the bat, it's a very empty map and we get down to action fairly quickly. So I'm going to run through my comp real quick. Knowing I was going against Greenskins, I wanted to try something out, something new out, because I have seen some other YouTubers and other players run this somewhat successfully or very successfully. So what I'm doing is I am running Boris Toddbringer on his Griffin with the Midland Rune Fang, hold your ground, crush the weak. Just there for dropping terror bombs and just a Flying Lord. Greenskins don't tend to bring too much in the way of Flying Lords, so I wasn't too worried about those. A Lore of Life Jade Wizard with Regrowth and Life and Earthblood. He is on foot, so no mount for him. That's because I went with a fairly infantry-heavy army. 2 Empire Captains to stiffen up my front line. They are not coming in with Foe Seeker. Actually, one of them came in with Foe Seeker because I had just enough points left over, but no Furious Onslaught or anything like that. A front line made up of swordsmen, though I'm running 1 unit of Sigmar's Sons. And behind them 2 units of Greatswords. As you can see here, I'm not running any skirmish units besides a unit of Outriders with grenade launchers here up in the front. I have to do work against Greenskin infantry because they can do quite a bit of damage to squishy unit targets. A unit of Demigryph Knights with halberds and a unit of Royal Outlaw Gryphites just to cause even more terror against Greenskins who are susceptible to that stuff. My opponent is trying to do something a little cheeky here. He hid most of his army in the back, forward deployed an Orc War Boss, 3 Goblin Wolf Riders, just to try to tie me down and drop a powerful Foot of Gork on me. This Orc Shaman came in with nothing else, and he is mounted, so he will be able to run fairly quickly. So basically he's just trying to get a Foot of Gork off to crush my cavalry or my infantry if they clump up. Then my opponent does have a very rank 5 Orc War Chariot. Which brings armor piercing and anti-infantry, and this was definitely a unit I wanted to clear off the field very quickly because it could do an absolute number on my swordsmen. And I actually wanted to get rid of the Goblin Wolf Riders quickly too, if possible, because they are a threat to my Outriders with grenade launchers, who are my only source of range damage. For my opponent's front line, he is running 4 Savage Orcs, 2 Black Orcs to back him up, sort of like my swordsmen and Greatsword combo. 1 Arachnarok Spider, which is a bit of an interesting pick, but it does cause terror. It is a very tanky unit against most forms of ranged fire and close quarters weaponry. It's definitely a potent pick there. And then 1 Doom Diver Catapult, which is potentially a very dangerous unit to my Greatswords in particular, but could definitely do some nasty work to any of my units. So without further ado, kicking things into high gear, immediately I'm pulling my Outriders back because I don't want them getting caught by the Wolf Riders. Even if the Wolf Riders just get in there for a little bit, even my opponent lost all his Wolf Riders for that, it would definitely be a trade in his favor. So I'm pushing my infantry forward. I want to be cautious with my demigryphs. I'm using them here to screen my cavalry because I'm a little worried that the Wolf Riders might go for something sneaky. And anytime I'm just pushing my infantry go forward while I send Boris to go after the Orc Shaman. My opponent does immediately pull his War Boss back, which I think was a bit of an interesting choice. Not entirely sure why, but perhaps not expecting me to do this sort of maneuver. I'm not entirely sure. So I go after the Orc Shaman, who means immediately terror routes, and then the Goblin Wolf Riders pile in on Boris, which will time down and prevent him from pursuing. Now, in the meantime, I'm pushing up my front line, but my opponent does push out his Board Chariots, who will do a lot of damage to Empire Swordsmen. And as you can see, they charge through, and they take about a 6th of my HP. I'm trying to pursue them, and unfortunately, this is a big mistake here. I allow my units to start clumping, trying to chase these chariots down. In the meantime, pushing up my captain and my Jade Wizard, and the Sigmar Sons and Swordsmen in on these Goblin Wolf Riders, who will get beaten up very badly. In the meantime, over here, Boris is taking a lot of damage. But I do pop a Regrowth on him to give him some physical resistance, and in the meantime he's terror routing these Goblin Wolf Riders. This Chariot, though, is still running around and running amok and doing a bit of damage. I'm trying to get my Demigryphs in to either catch the Wolf Riders and do damage to them. Originally I was hoping to catch the Shaman. Now I'm focusing on the Orc Boar Chariot. And Boris isn't capable of taking off, which means the Shaman is going to be able to kite him quite fairly effectively. And here you can see I'm making a massive error, allowing all of my units to clump up, which makes them a super easy target for the Doom Divers, and more importantly, a very, very easy target for Foot of Gork, because I was focused on Boris over here. I wasn't paying attention at all to my army, and last second, right as the foot was coming down, I start getting ready to cast an Earthblood, but definitely quite a bit of damage done there. In the meantime, though, I'm pushing forward, trying to zone off this Orc Shaman, while Boris does beat up on these last remaining Wolf Riders, just trying to shatter them, get rid of them for good. In the meantime, though, with Earthblood, Foot of Gork didn't get too much done. It definitely beat up my Royal of Griffites a bit, and definitely did some damage to my Demigryphs, who are very low on HP now, but with the Overcast Earthblood, I should be fine, and it is definitely much cheaper than an Overcast Foot of Gork, which is, I do believe, what that was. Might have been a normal cast, but even if it was a normal cast, Earthblood is cheaper. So I'm trying to crush these Goblin Wolf Riders for good, but it doesn't look like it. They still have quite a few models, fair few models left, so they'll probably rally. Orc Shaman over here, falling back for good, trying to get behind his infantry line. My opponent's infantry is pushing forward. Unfortunately, my opponent was not on top of my carrying his Doom Diver, or unfortunately for my opponent, so it hasn't gotten too much in the way of kills at this stage, despite being a fairly precise artillery piece. And more importantly, it's wasting its shots on units like swordsmen, and it really needs to be doing damage to the great swords in the back here. That might also just be because the great swords are in the, tailing all the way in the back. Now, Royal Dwarfs are pretty beat up. The normal Griffites, or the normal Demigryphs, are only missing one model. Royal Altdorf 2 and a lot of HP, because they got hit a lot harder by the Foot of Gork. And I'm just hovering Boris over here. I do know that I have to push in very, very quickly, because otherwise the artillery is going to do an absolute number on me, and I can't really afford to let my opponents sit. So definitely a bit of an interesting situation where Empires can't afford to sit and wait for Orcs to come to them. So I'm immediately pushing forward with my Swordsmen. As you can see, things have changed a little bit. Here my first volley of grenades is going into Savage Orcs. As you can see, it's already dishing out quite a bit of hurt. Does about 800 damage in the opening volley. So definitely shows a bit of how strong Outriders with grenade launchers can be. Here my opponent is trying to push forward with his Orc War Boss, and initially I had been afraid that this was going to be Azak with Spirit Leech and Fate of Buno, but it isn't, so I definitely lucked out a bit there. And now what I'm doing is trying to pursue him a little bit with Boris, making sure to zone him off, and now I'm just pushing my army straight into the fight. Over here my opponent does pop Wah and Stand Your Ground, which will make him much tankier. I do believe they will make his stats significantly better than Boris's in close quarters. But Boris is hitting fairly hard, so that will definitely be a bit of a boost, or a bit of benefit. He's definitely dishing out the herd here, trading very effectively, really, with the Orc War Boss. Now I'm firing grenades into the Black Orcs. Grenades are actually not bad, not terrible against Black Orcs, or against armored infantry. They dish out 14 explosive armor piercing, which is definitely not bad. Now, in the meantime, my Griffites have routed off the Wolf Riders, and now I'm going to come into my opponent's rear with them and try to go after the artillery and my opponent's rear units. And unfortunately for my opponent, because he's so close to the map edge, it's making it very hard for his units. If they get broken, his units aren't coming back. Over here, my Royal Griffites are going for the Doom Diver. Currently, my opponent is definitely trying to shut down Boris. He's shooting at him with the Doom Diver. He's shooting at him with this Arachnarch Spider, whose Poison Spear is debuffing Boris very significantly. He's popped his Potion of Healing already, I do believe, on his Orc War Boss. And Boris is wavering. He's getting beaten up really badly. He's not quite able to go toe-to-toe with Boris, definitely, or with the Orc War Boss. Definitely not with all the support that the Orc War Boss is getting. So what I do here is I pop a Regrowth on Boris. In the meantime, the Doom Diver has shattered. Shortly, the Orc Shaman should shatter as well. And over here, with the support of my grenade launchers, my flank over here is winning. Now, grenade launchers will occasionally do friendly fire, but they can arc over your troops. And of course, the rear charge from the Royal Griffites will absolutely break these guys. Yeah, Black Orcs are immune to psychology, but that's not going to help against rear charge from super heavy cav like Demigryphs. So my opponent's line is basically buckling at this point. There's only this unit of Savage Orcs, or actually Black Orcs over here, still holding. I do dive Boris in, and this was a bit of a mistake. I didn't realize I was so close to my healing cap, and he does take quite a bit of pounding here from the Spider. But now my Empire Captains are on the Spider. They're dishing out the hurt. The Royal Griffites and the Demigryphs are on top of the Spider too now. My other captains are coalescing on it. They're going to be beating it down, beating it to pulp. And I'm sending my Outriders forward. They did take a few losses to the the Doom Diver earlier. I guess it kind of is a Goblobber, eh? Shooting down the shooting goblins. But now they move forward, and they're just here to try to zone away the Savage Orcs. Dish out a bunch of hurt. And as you can see, they've already almost leveled up. So they haven't racked up a bunch of kills, but they're doing immense amounts of damage. And that's Outriders with grenade launchers can do crazy amounts of damage. They were doing a lot of work against my opponent's units. And as you can see, there we win. So bit of a it was basically a game that ended up being decided by a morale break on the Greenskins part. Obviously, Greenskins are very susceptible to that sort of stuff. The Empire Captains didn't dish out a lot of hurt, but the fact that they provide Hold Your Ground, which gives all the units around them 100% charge resistance, as well as the fact that they provide a morale boost, and they themselves are very tanky, so they can absorb a lot of damage from the greenskins, especially savage orcs, or especially units without armor piercing like savage orcs, or even goblin wolf, or of course goblin wolf riders, and those sorts of units. And they have decent melee stats and all that. They can definitely stiffen up your swordsman line. As you can see, my swordsman didn't dish out too much, but the Sigmar's Sons did a little bit, or actually quite a bit. One of my more effective units. Boars got boatloads of kills, largely, of course, on the wolf riders early on. And greatswords got a little bit done. They definitely took a bit of beating. They're not ideal for fighting black orcs. Black orcs will win a straight up fight with greatswords. I'm fairly sure. The Demigryphs and Royal Elf Griff fights, once again, none of the kills here are particularly impressive, and that is, except for perhaps Boris, and that is on either side, really. On my opponent's side, only the Doom Diver got a bit done, and Black Orcs got a few kills. But, I guess the Chariot. Because it was decided so quickly by the morale break. But, I definitely think the build was solid. It was interesting running Empire without much of any skirmishers. The Outriders with grenade launchers are a lot of fun. They're a potentially very strong unit if you're capable of microing them properly and avoiding getting caught up by enemy fast cav or enemy skirmishers. Do keep in mind that Outriders are very slow. Both the generic ones and grenade launcher ones are very, very slow for a skirmish cav, so they can very easily get torn apart. Or very easily get run down by enemy cavalries. Even cavalry, like even heavier like cav, I guess, like Wild Riders can run down Outriders. So that is something to keep in mind. Ragnarok, bit of an interesting pick, considering Empire's tendency to bring a lot of skirmish units and Demigryphs with halberds. But it was definitely interesting. I do think the Lore of Life helped me a whole bunch. For my opponent, he landed some nasty foot of corks that I was not too pleased about, but mostly I just had myself to blame for that, allowing my units to clump because I wasn't paying attention. So yeah, good game to my opponent. I do hope you guys liked this game. If you did, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like or subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticism, any future builds or units you'd like to see demonstrated, do feel free to share those in the comments, and I'll be sure to read them as soon as I can and respond as soon as I can too. I appreciate you all for watching, and Wyvern out.